Hi, I'm attorney Gregory Dell here with attorney Stephen Jessup, and today we're going to talk about Mass Mutual disability insurance claim handling, and specifically, Jessup, the service that we offer where we help people to manage their claim where they've already been on claim. And in this video, I want to provide some tips about what to expect while on claim with Mass Mutual, some things that we do to put people in the best position so that their benefits don't get denied. And so, right off the bat, talk a little bit about when someone calls you and says they have Mass Mutual and why you think it would be important for them to have assistance with their claim.
You know, Mass Mutual is a great insurance company. They have a great reputation, but they are very detail oriented, So a lot of people who have Mass Mutual policies are, medical professionals, executives and whatnot who may have their own businesses. So there's a lot of information that's all going to be taken into consideration when reviewing a claim that, you may not even, be aware of. So it's just this understanding that, yes, they are a very good company with a good reputation, but they are very, very thorough in their review process, and there's going to be a lot of information that's going to be needed in order for them to, review and process their claim. And just having handled these cases and knowing what each specific, area, hey, we're going to need X, Y, and Z, and preemptively getting a lot of information, it just kind of makes the process a lot smoother and can steal away any surprise moments for the client when, Mass Mutual is asking for certain information that they, someone may not have thought was even relevant to their claim.
So someone watching this video may not have even applied yet and isn't sure what the process is going to bring about, or they've been on claim for a little bit and they're starting to get their feathers ruffled because there's many requests that are coming in. But when Mass Mutual approves a claim for long-term disability, does that mean that person's approved forever, or what are going to be the ongoing requirements in order to keep the benefits coming?
Yeah, definitely not approved forever. A lot of people do have this idea, and they'll say to us like, well, they've approved me, nothing's changed. I don't know why they're giving me a hard time. I don't know why they need this information. But under these policies, Mass Mutual is going to continue to require updated information as to your status. What's going on from you individually, claim forms you complete, as well as claim forms that your doctors are going to have to complete. Mass Mutual, if you're on claim, a lot of the policies have, partial residual disability. So if you are on a partial residual disability and you're still working, then it's a matter of requesting financial information, what the job duties are, things like that. So getting approved is the first step. You still have to work to stay on claim. It's like any relationship. If you don't put work into it, it's not going to work out well. So you do have to continue to provide information that supports your ongoing disability.
And so when you're involved in the claim as the lawyer representing the claimant and managing it, what does that mean? What do you do for the claimant?
A lot of people see it as running interference in the sense that all the communication is going to come through our office. The client's not going to have to worry about getting a cold call from their claims person or someone from the company. All that stuff's going to be coordinated through our office. So we take that away. We can't, they're not going to be stuck on the phone with their claims manager and maybe say something they didn't mean to, or trip up, or have something misconstrued. So we act as kind of an insurance policy on the insurance itself and a safety net. So everything comes through us. We process information. We help get the response to request for information and get that back over to Mass Mutual. In my experience as well, in dealing with companies like Mass Mutual, they also like to see, our office on it because they know what we're doing. And when it comes to, getting information, and we can make it a smoother process for not only our client, but for the insurance company to be able to get their decisions and their reviews done quicker.
Right, and the other thing, Joseph, talk about how we help to manage the medical records, because all too often we see the tiniest little mistake in a medical record, a form or something like that results in a denial, which can be catastrophic for somebody who's relying on this income coming in every month.
Yeah, and that's, come from the medicals, reviewing the medical records. And I think even before that, making sure you're still treating with your doctor. A lot of times people say, well, there's nothing they can do for me, so I don't have to go in that much. The policy does require that you're under the appropriate care of a physician. Now, it can get to the point where you may not have to see the doctor if they determine that it's not going to do you any extra good, but that's very limited situations. So making sure you still are maintaining treatment with the doctors, and the doctor is documenting issues you're having correctly, in any, range. If you're working part-time under your policy, how it's still impacting the ability to work. And we find now with a lot of these medical record keeping, software and the way they do the records, you can go through where it talks about the general exam, where normally, they're clicking a box on various things when they're doing the chart, and they may hit something wrong, saying that there's no evidence of any, weakness on the side of the body or lack of range of motion. But then when you get down to the bottom part where they're able to type in their notes, they're talking about these issues. An insurance company is always going to take a look at the lowest hanging fruit. We'll see where there may be, a mistake made in the records, an omission made in the records. So it's just kind of making sure that stuff's staying documented, and make sure when a doctor's doing an attending physician statement, they're really supporting, what those restrictions are related to what your, prior occupation was.
In terms of a claimant who's been approved by Mass Mutual, they've been on claim for a year or 2 years or so, what do you recommend to your clients in terms of how often they should continue to see the doctor? Because you did mention just a minute ago that people feel like, and this is the very common situation, I know what's wrong with me. If I have prescription drugs, I take that. I've done therapy, I've done injections, I've done everything I can do. Why do I have to keep going back? So how often is the reasonable amount? What do you recommend in that situation?
First and foremost, I like to defer to what the person's doctor says. If the doctor says, hey, you should be coming in every 3 months, 3 months, 6 months, then 6 months. But I would say if you've been on claim for a couple years and the claim's pretty established, it doesn't hurt to get in every 2 to 3 months just for the checkup. Just let them know what's going on. If you have a specialist you treatment, whatever the case may be, just so that there is that continued documentation there. The longer you are on claim, the more the Mass Mutual is going to see it as, a long-term thing for them. But they're still going to want to see that you're treating, that there are issues. If you're claiming you've had like a horrendous back that's prevented you to work, but you've done no rounds of physical therapy, your medication has basically stayed stagnant for years, they're going to start to question, well, how bad is it right now? So it's always important that your doctor's aware. Plus, if your doctor gets a random call from a doctor from Mass Mutual and they haven't seen you in a long time, they're either going to go off, the last chart note or maybe memory, which may not be so clear, and potentially, unbeknownst to them, say something that could result in further investigations and possible denial of your claim.
Right, that's a great point, because we always tell all of our claimants, you always need to let your doctor know that at any given time, the disability insurance company, and Mass Mutual does this a lot, either their nurse, their doctor, or some hired outside doctor is going to call the doctor and ask questions about the person's medical condition, restrictions and limitations. And the doctor needs to be aware that the claimant has a long-term disability policy and should have some knowledge of the language in that policy, because often these doctors just call and say, does your claimant have any restrictions and limitations? And most doctors interpret that as restrictions and limitations in activities of daily living, not with regard to the ability to work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And more often than not, the doctors say, I'm not limiting the claimant, but I'm not limiting the claimant to go out to eat, to drive the car, to go get groceries, to use the bathroom, to shower, to change positions. Normal daily things that 99% of our clients who are on claim can do. But they can't commit to work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. So that is a very common area, and we always encourage clients to tell their doctors, even if a doctor calls you, you should ask them to submit the questions in writing so that there's never any inconsistencies. And if you do speak to the doctor, you should tell them to send a written summary so that your treating doctor can sign off to confirm everything that was said, because that's a very common situation. And Stephen, the other thing is when someone's on claim, Mass Mutual often asks for claimant forms, monthly claimant forms, or every 2 or 3 months, and attending physician statements. And how do you work with claimants to get those forms completed?
Yeah, going back, we'll start with the attending physician statement, since we're just talking about the medical. It goes, it falls in line with what we were just discussing about properly documenting and filling out in the context of, and generally these Mass Mutual policies are going to be own occupation, so the inability to do your job. That when determining restrictions and limitation, it has nothing to do with your activities of daily living, or if you could do some easier job. It's can you do your job, and having an understanding of what that occupation is. So that all falls in line there. And on the claim form, same thing. The claim forms, it's a balancing act, right? We always recommend, listen, honesty is always going to be the best policy, because if you put something in there that is inaccurate and they find out, say you put in a form, I can't, go grocery shopping or do these things because my back hurts too much. And if they do video surveillance and see that, they're going to now question your credibility. It's going to be an attack on your credibility more than anything. So making sure you are, being honest and truthful in your answers. There's certain words as lawyers that we hate to hear. Like, I don't like seeing never on a claim form, because there could be a possibility that you do something. And then also not providing, not trying to share too much. Sometimes you get in situations where it's almost like, a client or someone, when you're reviewing information they send, it shows that they're like really trying to sell and push, and they're answering questions that aren't necessarily being asked. So it's answering the questions being asked in a concise, honest, truthful fashion, and being able to convey again how your medical conditions affect your ability for your job. That's always going to be the overarching theme that you got to work in.
Those are great points and super important, because it only takes one tiny mistake for a claim to get denied, and then it's months or years. It's a
credibility issue.
Yeah, and sometimes it could be months or years to get a person back on claims. So, the unique thing that we do when we handle these claims, Stephen, is that we often offer a flat fee at a very reasonable rate to handle these claims. As you mentioned, it's often insurance on insurance to give a claimant a peace of mind so that they know they're doing everything right. Most of our clients with MassMutual have larger policies because of the fact that they're either doctors or dentists or business professionals. So they were very high wage earners and bought these policies at a time hoping they never need it, but unfortunately they did. So we understand the significance and importance of keeping these benefits being paid on a monthly basis. If you have a MassMutual disability policy, we encourage you to contact myself or Stephen or any of our disability lawyers. We'll provide you with an immediate free consultation and let you know how we can assist you. We also encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel or spend some time on our website, as we are always providing additional information about MassMutual, cases that we've handled against MassMutual, lawsuits against MassMutual. We also have additional information such as related to your occupation or your medical condition, where you can find lots of helpful claims and tips. So no matter where you live in the country, we're available to assist you, and we look forward to the opportunity to speak with you should you need us in the future. Thank you.